Swaha Om Tatsaritu Varaniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yo Naham Prachodayatu Om Bhurvuvah Swaha Om Tatsaritu Varaniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yo Naham Prachodayatu Om Bhurvuvah Swaha Om Tatsaritu Varaniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yo Naham Prachodayatu Om Bhurvuvah Swaha Om Tatsaritu Varaniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yo Naham Prachodayatu Om Bhurvuvah Swaha Om Tatsaritu Varaniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yo Naham Prachodayatu Om Bhurvuvah Swaha Om Tatsaritu Varaniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Yo yo nam prachodayatu. Om Bhurva Swaha. Om Tatsavitu Varniyam. Bhargo Devasya Dhimani. Yo yo nam prachodayatu. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushyavarnam Urvarvameva Bandhanam Mrityo Mukshiyamamrita Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushyavarnam Urvarvameva Bandhanam Mrityo Mukshiyamamrita Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushyavarnam Urvarvameva Bandhanam Mrityo Mukshiyamamrita Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushyavarnam Urvarvameva Bandhanam Mrityo Mukshiyamamrita Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Mukshiyamamrita Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushyavarnam Urvarvameva Bandhanam Mrityo Mukshiyamamrita Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushyavarnam Urvarvameva Bandhanam Mrityo Mukshiyamamrita Swaha. Om Swaha. Om Swaha. Om Swaha. O eternal fire of Om, we cast into thy flames of love all of our karma. Free us. Awaken us. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Please be seated. Let's begin our satsang with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, Beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, Saints of all religions, Beloved Swamiji, we bow to you again and again. Divine Mother, we are your children. We want to please Thee. Help us in every way to act as your instruments, sharing your joy, your unconditional love with all who cross our path. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. for once come to me. Wilt thou come, wilt thou come, just for once come to me. Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Lord, my heart open wide, I keep for thee. Lord, my heart open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Lord, my heart open wide, I keep for thee. Lord, my heart open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Listen to my soul song, listen to my heart song. Listen to my soul song, listen to my heart song. In secret in my soul, I will gather blossoms for thee. Dipping them in devotion, I will lay them at thy feet. Dipping them in devotion, I will lay them at thy feet. Listen to my soul song, listen to my heart song. Listen to my soul song, listen to my heart song. In secret in my soul, I will gather blossoms for thee. Dipping them in the ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Dipping them in the ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Listen to my soul song, listen to my heart song. Listen to my soul song, listen to my heart song. In secret in my soul, I will gather blossoms for thee. Dipping them in devotion, I will lay them at thy feet. Dipping them in devotion, I will lay them at thy feet. Listen to my soul song, listen to my heart song. Listen to my soul song, listen to my heart song. In secret in my soul, If you got in devotion, I will lay them at thy feet. If you got in devotion, I will lay them at thy feet. If you got in devotion, I will lay them at thy feet. Guide you inner peace, steal into my heart of hearts, vanish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, vanish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, vanish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, vanish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, vanish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, vanish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, even to my heart of hearts, vanish my delusion. Shri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, vanish my
Now let's meditate together. Inhale and tense the body. Vibrate and throw the breath out. Twice more. Now completely relax the body. Be here in the present moment. Calm the mind. Still the heart. Try not to move a muscle. Watch your breath as it flows in and out. With each breath, feel that your body and your mind and soul is being filled with light. And with each exhalation, banish all darkness from your consciousness. Inhale light, exhale darkness. Turn your eyes very slightly up to the point between the eyebrows. And see Master's eyes there, lovingly pouring his love through his eyes to you at your spiritual eye. Unconditional divine love filling every cell of your being, every atom, every thought, every emotion, filled with Master's love. Open your heart to His love. And try very carefully to feel the essence of your soul, your true self as love, as divine love, as Divine Mother's love, and as the Master's love. Just meditate on this love for the next short meditation. Oh, oh, oh. Shanti, Shanti. Now, keeping this inward feeling, listen to the words of Swami Kriyananda as we read from Affirmations for Self-Healing. And this morning's affirmation is on even-mindedness. Many people confuse progress with movement and with outward change. Thus, the more dust of excitement they can stir up, the more productive they feel they are. The more they get swept up into a happy mood, When things go well, the better they imagine things have gone. And their answer to every slump is to cast about for some other thing to sweep them high once more. Such lives are like cars driven over deeply rutted roads. Their movement is almost as much up and down as it is forward. With even-mindedness, progress is a straight, not a jagged line. Progress, however, should mean above all progressive understanding. Even-mindedness bestows clarity of perception, which is the ability to see things as they really are, undistorted by emotional bias. And let's affirm together, I remain untouched by gain or loss.
I remain untouched by gain or loss.
In the calm mirror of my understanding,
In the calm mirror of my understanding,
I behold thy light reflected.
I behold thy light reflected.
I remain untouched by gain or loss.
I remain untouched by gain or loss.
In the calm mirror of my understanding,
In the calm mirror of my understanding,
I behold thy light reflected.
I behold thy light reflected.
In a whisper, I remain untouched by gain or loss.
I remain untouched by gain or loss.
In the calm mirror of my understanding,
In the calm mirror of my understanding,
I behold thy light reflected.
I behold thy light reflected.
And now at the point between the eyebrows, taking it into the superconscious, I remain untouched by gain or loss. In the calm mirror of my understanding, I behold thy light reflected. I remain untouched by gain or loss. In the calm mirror of my understanding, I behold thy light reflected. And pray silently with me. When I rejoice, Lord, let it be with thee. And when I grieve, help me always to see thy sunlight through the mists. Om Shanti Shanti. Amen.
Well, good morning once again to everyone that is here. It's a joy to see you, and everyone that is tuning in via the internet. This reading is from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda, entitled, Wake me, that I may know that the terrors of mundane delusion are only dreams. Wrapped in the blanket of hope, I slept long. I dreamed I was sitting on a throne, my face wreathed in smiles. My smiles withered and the petals of my merriment dropped away one by one. Suddenly, I beheld myself in rags. Seated on the hard stones of poverty, I wept, and my teardrops fell on the unheeding, unrelenting stones of my present circumstances. The world passed me by in mocking silence. I cried out for thy help, and thou didst wake me at last through the force of my desperation. I laughed to find myself at last neither rich nor poor, but safe forever in thy arms. Oh, waken all anxious souls from their dreams of smiling opulence and crying poverty. O maker of dream worlds, deliver me forever from the nightmares of disease and death. Wake me to immortality. Wake me to unshaken calmness, that I may know the fierce terrors of mundane delusion to be only dreams. And this is a reading from The New Path by My Life with Paramahansa Yogananda by Swami Kriyananda. A wonderful chapter entitled Work versus Meditation. It was in February or March 1949. Master had been away from Mount Washington several weeks, and I hadn't seen him all that time. I was beginning to feel his absence keenly. Finally, he returned. The next day, a word came down to me to get someone to carry a 5-gallon bottle of drinking water up to his kitchen. Eagerly, I appropriated the job to myself. Arriving upstairs with the bottle, I could hear Master dictating a letter in his sitting room. Hoping to attract his attention, I rattled the bottle and made as much noise as I felt I decently could for a job that called for a minimum of tumult. Master paid no attention. He doesn't care that I miss him, I thought, plunging silently into a violent depression. I'm just a worker to him, not a disciple. I rushed on to brood over the unfeeling nature of this world, where nobody really cares for anyone else. Moments later, I made an abrupt about face. No master cares, but he sees that I'm such a hopeless case that he figures he might as well give up pouring water into this bottomless pit. On and on, my mind churned. I tried reasoning with myself. Look here, he's obviously busy. Why should he drop everything just for you? Yeah, retorted my recalcitrant mind. I imagine he said, look out, here comes that worthless disciple, Walter. Quick, let me dictate a letter as an excuse not to have to call him in here. Clearly, reason wasn't going to pull me out of my mental whirlpool. Indeed, reason's tendency is to support any feeling that happens to be uppermost in the mind. Do you like being moody? I demanded of my mental citizens. No, came the chorus, unanimously, except for one or two grumblers in the background. Very well then, boys. If reason won't do it, let's see if changing our level of consciousness will do the work. I went down to my meditation cave, and there plunged my mind deeply at the Christ center between the eyebrows. 5 minutes was all it took. My father used to love to go hiking. He was really quite a hiker, part of the Sierra Club, and we had many, many wonderful outings. And living by the beach, often he would announce after a party that my parents were having that he was going swimming. Did anyone want to come? It was often the wintertime and very cold. And I don't remember ever anyone coming, but I couldn't resist. I was maybe, Ryan's age, and so I would go in and it was freezing. I just felt like, I was going to turn into an ice cube right on the spot. And if that wasn't enough, other times after, again, this was typically after these parties that we would have, again, with my parents and friends, he would say, who wants to go on a hike? It was midnight. And at that time, I was an Olympian sleeper. And I could sleep, long hours, 12 hours was nothing. I could do better even than that. But I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist the thought of going to the Santa Monica, the nearby hills there, and hiking with my dad. And I don't remember a time anyone came except me. And I don't remember a time that I skipped that opportunity. And we would hike all night long. And again, I was just a little kid. And then watch the sunrise and have breakfast. It was such a wonderful experience. Well, one time, Benai, who was, again, a mentor for me when I first came to Ananda, he also enjoyed hiking and so forth. And he had another something that was, I thought, quite unusual. And that was simply that in the wintertime, and it snows in the Sierra Nevada foothills in Northern California, I would glance down and he would be barefoot. He'd be completely comfortable in India. And I would just in astonishment look at his toes and they were turning blue. And I'd say, Benai, I'd be really happy to lend you a pair of shoes, No, he wasn't interested in that. He just wanted to, again, enjoy the austerity of the experience. There's another time when we were meditating with Swami. We were monks at the time, and we were there in his early dome at the seclusion retreat. And after, it was a long meditation. It might well have been an hour and a half, 2 hours. And so when we finished, Benai announced, he said, something, I was in the full lotus and my limbs were screaming, but I wasn't going to budge. I thought, my God, who is this guy? He's some kind of a Himalayan yogi, no doubt. Well, at one point we were in Southern California. We had a jewelry company, and so we would often go down and sell our jewelry to the department stores and so forth. And so on one of these occasions, my father and Benai and I thought, what a great thing to go hiking. And this was in the daytime. And so we, we had a favorite spot there, absolutely gorgeous, overlooking the ocean. And Benai said, I'm going to be going barefoot. And he took off his shoes and socks. And I said, Benai, I'm telling you, I know this hike. I've been on it many times. There were lots of, sharp rocks. I'm not going to give you my shoes when you wear out. I'm just not going to. So, okay, are you okay with that? Absolutely. It's not going to be a problem. Well, at one point, he walked across a patch of thorns and he was disabled immediately. And I said, there's no way I'm giving you my shoes. He knew I was joking. And I said, forget it. You'll just have to finish the hike. And he couldn't walk. I mean, he had just all these thorns in his feet. And so I said, but don't you remember there, I said to you, you are not going to get my shoes and so forth. Anyway, I gave him my shoes and I finished the hike in my socks. And I thought, man, I'm never going to go hiking with that guy again. This is no fun. And sharp rocks and so on. I mean, I wanted my shoes. I didn't want to be walking in socks. Who walks in socks? No one walks in socks. I hiked a lot. I've never seen anybody walk in socks. And we finished the hike. And, I made it through. And he was very grateful. He was very grateful. And he said, at the end of the hike, he said, I really did want to thank you very much. And I said, okay, but don't do it again, So these were for me, at that time, and of course we've all had so many lessons, my God, especially these days, to practice being even-minded and cheerful, because this is what life is all about. But a lot of people don't understand. It continues to be an affirmation for them. Very good. But we need, affirmation is meant to take us into the real experience itself. Affirmation is meant to open the door to the true experience. Well, what have we found as yogis? We have found our own inner life. And in that way, we can be challenged with, tremendous obstacles, and we race to, as a child races to their mother, we race inside, and there we find the strength, the courage, the comfort, absolutely everything that we need, because otherwise it's almost impossible, because the Maya is always lurking, especially when the tests come. And so we want to break right, and we want to rise to the occasion and be positive, but the Maya is saying, you're fully justified to be grumpy. And the Maya, of course, has its own wisdom and is pure genius. And so, I would say that, not only that, but, you really had a hard last couple of weeks. And I don't know, I just feel like, is God even present, and so forth. And so like Swami, when, here comes that worthless disciple, Walter, quick, let me go find something to do. We make these things up again and again and again, and it's nothing. I always enjoyed Charlie Brown. If you have seen Peanuts over the years, maybe it's here in India, a wonderful cartoon I was raised with, and he loved baseball. And so he was worrying and worrying and worrying about the outcome of the game, but they won. And he said, darn, I wasted a good worry. And that is very often, it's why Master said to go on a worry fast, so that we don't have to be thinking in terms of, being bounced around. I love the affirmation that Roma read, where on a road that's, we have one right out there, that's, bounces you up and down. Are you going more forward, or is your head just hitting the ceiling? A lot of times that's it. Are we running in circles thinking that we're being productive, or are we just fooling ourselves? Swami again, a wonderful example of being even-minded and cheerful. Of course, he was a champion in that regard. In the early years, it was tough. Of course, from his early years as a disciple of Master, we read in the path, he had many, many tests. But some years later, maybe 30 years later, after Ananda had burnt down in 76, a great test for all of us. I mean, burnt down all of the homes except one. But Divine Mother wanted to make a point. And so that winter, a tree crashed and split the house in half. I meant all the houses. And there were people in the house at the time. They heard the crack and they raced to the back of the house and were spared. And I know about these houses because I built some of them. They needed to, we needed to do something different than, I mean, you hammer the last nail and you would say, it's still standing. The house is still standing. It's amazing, And so Swami, after the place burned down, again, a lot of people predicted that we would fail because this was absolutely devastating. We lost 2/3 of our acreage, about 440 acres. And I remember I was at my grandma's house down in San Diego. Jyotish called me and said, Haridas, you got to get up here. The place is burnt down. I was just in a state of shock, as we all were. But what was Swami's reaction? Let's go on a tour. Let's go on a tour. What is this? And so for a couple of years, Ananda, a group of Ananda people, toured all around the country. And a lot of our members, good people that are here at Ananda today, came from that tour, Texas and New York and all these various things. Well, one of the things that Swami had been wanting was a motor home, because in that way, he had, of course, a very demanding schedule with everyone, and especially he. And then he could have his own space. And so finally, at one point, we raised the money, got a motorhome. He was just so delighted. And when he was in the motorhome, I don't know where he was, which state, he was just like a little child prior to Diwali or Christmas or whatever it might be, just almost jumping up and down. But in the back of his mind, because he's a yogi, he said, I'm gonna have to pay for this. He knew he was getting a little bit beyond, the beyond. Just, wow, this is fantastic. Well, as it turned out, karma sometimes can come very, very quickly. We call it instant karma. And that's exactly what happened to him. And so Vidura, who was at that time our general manager, he had forgot to set the brake of the motorhome. And very, very slowly, and you couldn't notice being in the vehicle, it just was moving until it hit a wall there in the parking lot of the supermarket. And Swami, who was reaching, on his tippy toes for some item, fell down and broke his finger. What was his reaction? He began laughing because he appreciated so much that this was what he knew was coming. He had gotten outside of himself. And so the pendulum, it was time for the pendulum to come back. And it's a story I've always appreciated because he could have been unhappy. Here he was on tour and doing, his very best for Divine Mother, and she breaks his finger. I mean, what is this? And indeed, he laughed because he knew he had gotten himself off center and he needed help. And so Divine Mother helped him in an unusual way, as of course she does from time to time. We never know how she's going to correct us. But we do know as yogis that being even-minded and cheerful is absolutely essential, because the more we're able to practice this very, very important yogic technique, the more we find that when we go out and have an ice cream, and that's something we're really looking forward to, we don't get into the mode of jumping up and down. We say we're going to enjoy it with Divine Mother. And so in that way, the joy is there, but it's calm joy. There's a big, big difference as opposed to when we get overly excited, because we know that when the emotions kick in, whatever it might be, we're going to have to pay the price. And when things happen that are tough for us, then we have to, again, just appreciate that this is a hard time, but it's not going to last. We're on our way to America to see our daughter after nearly 3 years. And boy, is this a time to practice being even mighty and cheerful. Because I've been sharing with friends, I'm having all these out of body experiences now, and I'm trying to get my work done, but I'm in New York, and I'm with Rose, and we're, having fun. I don't know what you guys think about New York if you haven't been there. Roma and I were as West Coasters when Rose first moved there, thinking, uh-oh, New York, you hear about these big cities, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, where I was raised, people have concern about that too. So much fun there. So much fun. As a matter of fact, Devarshi said not long back, he loves New York. I thought, okay, I guess we aren't crazy. That's Devarshi, head of the Korean ministry here in India, giving us a needed endorsement. And yet, Divine Mother, she's the one as our companion that is with us in every instance. Whatever we're doing, she is there. She's the nearest of the near, the dearest of the dear. And so the more we can spend time with her, then when something comes along, like we're heading off to New York in May and going to be there for a while, then we say, Divine Mother, just keep me, calm. I'm having too many out of body experiences. I need to be here. Need to get this work done, and so forth. And so she comes to the rescue again and again and again, because we know that she is the solution. Divine Mother is joy. Joy is the solution. Divine Mother is love. Love is the solution. Divine Mother is wisdom. Divine Mother is light. All the spiritual qualities, that's who she is. And she never makes a mistake. You'll never catch her making a mistake. How can perfection make a mistake? And so as she's guiding us perfectly. And that's why it's important to remember that everything comes from a loving hand. And if we start to think that there's, too much happening, too many things falling on our head, then we have to have a talk with Divine Mother. And she's all for that. A lot of people, when hard times are there, then they begin to withdraw. That's the last thing we need to do. We need to hold on to her feet. We need to hold on to Guru's feet. And from time to time, perhaps I'd share this with you, but it's well worth sharing. From time to time, the bombardment that I've had lasts too long. Okay, I understand you're doing open heart surgery without anesthesia as usual, but it's going on too long. I'm getting worn down. I'm getting exhausted. A couple of times I've done this when it's just pushed me, and I'm starting to, get discouraged, and you don't want to get discouraged. And so I'll say to her, okay, it's time to push the pause button. I want you to continue the project, but not now. I need a break. I need a movie. I need an ice cream. I need to see my friends. I need a book. I need to take a nap. I need something, but I don't need this. It's just too much. You're giving me balloon payments of karma, as I like to call them. And it's just over and over and over, day after day. Every single time. And again, I haven't called out from the depths of my soul, only a couple of times from my memory when it just is too much. It's done. And I think, well, very good. Very good. She is present, if I had any doubt during that time of severe trial. She is present. And because she's the one, I like to say that she's in charge of the bliss valve. She says, oh, I think they need some more bliss. Oh, thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then, time for the karma valve. So, then she administers the karma and then watches us dance, to that experience and so forth. She's in charge of it all. And it's all with that motive, that pure motive. She knows who we are. It's good that someone knows. And she knows where we're going. And she, as, again, playing many roles, including the divine surgeon, knows that we really, in our heart of hearts, want every shortcut. We want to go as quickly as we can. And that's why Master said, and he didn't say this because he was dangling something in front of us that was unattainable. He said, at least you should go after Nirvikalpa Samadhi. At least? Oh my God. Have anything else in mind for us? Of course, perfect freedom, but in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, we're there. We don't need to come back. We have some residue karma, but it doesn't really matter because we're in that state of bliss. We have now unbroken bliss. And so with us, being even-minded and cheerful is being a good sport. And we learned that long ago in school, to be a good sport. We have a little owie, be a good sport. You lost the game, be a good sport. You didn't get the grade that you wanted, be a good sport, be a good sport. That's how I was raised in my household. All of my not all of my parents, both of my parents, I was saying all of my parents because I consider my aunt and uncle, they were my parents too, really, my second parents. And my brother, they were all brilliant and they'd crack the book, done, and they'd get an A. I would have to work Sunday night. That was about the only time I could, harness my willpower for an hour or so, and maybe I'd get a B. I thought, that's no fun. What is this? Why was I shortchanged? And yet we all come in with gifts. And that wasn't an interest of mine. As it turned out, this is an interest of mine. I didn't know it at the time. There were little pipings of inspiration that I couldn't really identify, but I wanted God. That was what I wanted. And I was happy for my brother who always got straight A's. And I got B's and C's so I wouldn't get grounded by my parents and so forth. But something else was calling me. And that's why we're all here today. And each of us could share with true inspiration our journey. And it's one of our favorite things to do when we can spend time together. How did you get to Ananda? How did you get on the spiritual path? Endless inspiration in hearing these stories. Because in this lifetime, this is what we want. We want God. And we're very, very serious about that. And as a closing, a very dramatic story, and this is beyond being even-minded and cheerful. This is just being in a state of super consciousness. And this is a story of Master when they were moving in Mount Washington, a very, very, very heavy wishing well, and it fell on his feet. And right away, you could see registered in his face tremendous agony from this. I mean, this was not a light wishing well. This was a concrete wishing well. But he wanted, because he wanted always to help, even in this extreme situation, the disciples that were present there, just a handful. He said, watch this. I'm going to put my energy at the point between the eyebrows. And he did. And he was able to walk about to the astonishment of the disciples freely. No trace of pain in his face. And then he said, now I'm going to go again and put my consciousness in this body. And right away, instantly, there was this, his face registered the agony. And he demonstrated this a number of times. I thought, my God, this will be something they will never forget. How could you forget something like that? They were witnessing a miracle. They were witnessing, again, as Master one time, someone was saying to him, Christ walked on water, you know. I read that in the Bible. He said very quietly, I can do that too. These great ones, they have no barriers. They can do whatever they need to do, but they don't demonstrate these miracles unless there's the inner sanction. And so let us take the examples of the great ones as we do. But again, as Gainamata said, more and better, so that during these times, and there's so many unknowns during these crazy times of trial, which again, we need because this world is needing purification. Let us do what we can to make sure that we don't venture out. Remember, as Swamiji said, from our own spines, as Master said, live in the spine. This sounds extreme. Live in the spine, come down every once in a while to eat or drink, talk as necessary. Back in the spine. And of course, we find growing incentive to be there because that's where God dwells. That's where Guru dwells. That's where we find that joy. So again, I don't want to jump up and down seeing all of you guys here, but I feel like it. I'm going to practice being in my spine. But again, it's a joy to have you. And of course, all of you that are here online. Okay, we're going to have our Aarti. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram.
Now we'd like to invite those of you who feel to come up to the altar to receive the touch of light from the Masters. And as you approach, offer a prayer of gratitude to the infinite Christ, in whose love our Master has descended that we might all come to God. And pray too for the grace to share with all as you have received, for you are a part of all that is. May the light of the great Master shine upon you.
Tells me thou art our my mother divine. Tells me thou art our my mother divine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Who tells me thou art our my mother divine? Who tells me thou art our my mother divine? Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Who tells me thou art our my mother divine? Who tells me thou art our my mother divine? Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Who tells me thou art our my mother divine? Who tells me thou art our my mother divine? Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Who tells me thou art our my mother divine? Who tells me thou art our my mother divine? Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Who tells me thou art our my Madhgirvai who tells me thou art Arpuma. Madhgirvai who tells me thou art Arpuma. Madhgirvai who tells me thou art Arpuma. I am the Baba, make me the sea, Lord, I am the Baba, make me the sea, make me the sea, oh, make me the sea, make me the sea, make me the sea, wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea, wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea, oh, I am the Baba. Who make me the sea, Lord, I am the God. Who make me the sea, so do thou, my Lord, so do thou, my Lord, thou and I, never apart, thou and I, never apart, wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea, Lord, I am the God. Who make me the sea, Lord, I am the God. Who make me the sea, make me the sea, oh, make me the sea, make me the sea, make me the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea, Lord, I am the Ba. Who make me the sea, Lord, I am the Ba. Who make me the sea, so do thou, my Lord, so do thou, my Lord, thou and I, never apart, thou and I, never apart. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Oh, I am the God who make me the sea. Lord, I am the God who make me the sea. So do thou, my Lord. So do thou, my Lord. Thou and I, never apart. Thou and I, never apart. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Oh, I am the God who make me the sea. I am the God who make me the sea.
Yeah, this was our satsang with the healing prayer. And call to mind all those you know who are in need of healing energy in their bodies, their minds, their souls. And call to mind all those you don't know who are in need of this healing energy. Embrace all souls and fill them all with love and Divine Mother's light and healing power. Bless this planet with her loving light. Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
thou art omnipresent.
thou art omnipresent.
Thou art in all thy children.
Thou art in all thy children.
Thou art in this world.
Thou art in this
Thou
world.
art in all souls.
Thou art in all souls.
Manifest thy healing presence.
Manifest thy healing presence
In all bodies.
in all bodies,
In all minds.
in all minds,
And in all souls.
in all souls.
Go out with joy.